Hey, it's Vicky, and today I am here with my 5-star prediction follow-up. If you guys remember, back in early January, I want to say it was, I did a 5-star prediction TBR. I teamed up with Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Library and Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand. They invited me to take part in a round of 5-star predictions with them for their series Booklist Thursday, and I happily agreed because I love their series. And I love them. And also I love doing 5-star predictions. So yeah, sorry by the way if you can hear some noise in the background. We got a ton of snow and my neighbor is snow blowing the sidewalk right now. So I apologize if you hear that noise. So I'm going to be talking about the 3 books that I did for my 5-star predictions, and the kind of theme that we did for this was we picked a 2022 reading challenge that we wanted to take part in, and we picked 3 challenges or books to fit challenges for those reading challenges. Wow, I just said challenges like a lot in one sentence, but anyways, so yeah, let's see how I did. The challenge that I chose is for my planner that I have. I have the Always Fully Booked planner for 2022, and there is an Always Fully Booked reading challenge in there, and that's the one I decided to get my prompts from. So yeah, let's see how I did. So the first 5-star prediction that I did was to cover the challenge on my reading challenge to read a book, an own voices book. So for that one, I decided to read A Lot's Away by Darcy Little Badger. And this one is about a young girl named A Lot's Away, but she goes by Ellie. And in this book, she lives in America, but it's sort of a different version of America. This basically is a magical realism story, and in this sort of world, there are different creatures, and people have different kind of gifts that, you know, are in this world are normal. And Ellie's gift is that she can raise the spirits of dead animals. And so in particular in this story, her dog, what was his name? Kirby, sorry, his name was Kirby, who was a Springer Spaniel, which to me immediately, I just latched onto that because when I was growing up, my dog growing up, Libby, she was a Springer Spaniel, so I immediately was like, oh my god, Springer Spaniel. Kirby was her pet dog who passed away because he was old, and she brought him back, and now he's like her ghost dog. So right off the bat, I was like, okay, that's great. I love that. But anyways, the gist of the story is that her cousin he dies in a very strange way. And one night she actually is visited by him in a dream, and he tells her basically like, I was murdered and you gotta help me out. And so she travels across Texas to go to where he lives or lived and figure out what happened to him. And so there's a mystery element, and she teams up one of her best friends. I cannot remember his name and I didn't write it down, but he helps her out a lot. They basically are trying to solve what happened to her cousin. And then like I said, but amongst them there's all this magical realism stuff going on. So it was very interesting to read. And I loved that aspect of it. And I don't read a lot of magical realism, and I really should read more of it because I really do like it. That it's a normal world. It's not there's not crazy world building and stuff because it's our world, but there's some magical stuff going on. It just sits well with me. Another aspect of this that I really liked was that in the book, Ellie is Lip and Apache, so her family is indigenous, and that is brought into the story so well. And I love that there is a lot of storytelling in here. There's so many times where she is sitting with her mom and her mom tells her a story from their family's past and stuff. And it's a story that she's probably, heard probably 100 times, but she always sits and listens to it because she enjoys it so much. And so I loved that aspect of storytelling and sort of oral traditions and cultural traditions, and also that kind of family ties that was going on. And of course, like I mentioned, I loved the animal aspect in here. I'm a dog lover, and so I just loved that she had Kirby was like her best buddy, and that bond that she had with animals, and not just Kirby but other animals too. Just that bond between human and animal was just really cool. So overall, I did really like this. I didn't give it 5 stars though. I gave it 4 stars, and I guess it was just because though I enjoyed it very much and there was a lot I liked about it, it just didn't give me that 5-star feeling. And so yeah, if you like magical realism and dogs, I think you would really like this book. It just, like I said, just didn't quite give me the 5-star feeling, but I really, really enjoyed it. Okay, so my next one was going to fulfill the challenge to read a debut novel. And so I picked up The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. And this one dealt with 2 slaves living on a plantation in the antebellum South. Their names were Isaiah and Samuel, and they were in love and sort of lived amongst, you know, everyone else, all the other slaves on this plantation. And it was known that they had a relationship, and it was just kind of accepted. It was just like, yeah, Isaiah and Samuel, you know. But then one of the other slaves, he basically, to try to get in good favor with the masters, starts to try to preach the gospel more to the other slaves, because he thinks it'll make him like look good to the masters. And he starts to talk about how in the Bible homosexuality is a sin and da da da. And so the rest of everybody else kind of starts to look at Isaiah and Samuel like, and even they themselves kind of start to question whether their love is like okay or whatever. And I'm gonna be honest, you guys, I made it this far. I made it 190 pages in, and I DNF'd it. Yes, I had a 5-star prediction that became a DNF. I tried listening to the audiobook, physically reading it, and then also physically reading it while listening to the audiobook. And I was just so lost because the perspectives change quite a bit from chapter to chapter, and you're even jumping around in time with people like ancestors of some of these slaves who, you know, so you're going way back in time, you're meeting all these different people. There's a lot of, which isn't surprising, there's a lot of religious references, biblical references that were going over my head because I just am not super well versed in the Bible and stuff. And so I just felt so lost, and I just didn't know what was happening, honestly. So I DNF'd it. And I don't entirely think it's the book's fault, like especially with the biblical stuff, because I mean that's on me because I'm reading a book called The Prophets. It's gonna have Bible stuff in it. But I think it was just the writing, the jumping around. I just was lost. I didn't know what was going on, basically. After 190 pages, I still didn't have a good grasp, and I mean that was halfway through the book. So yeah, this one, I didn't rate it because I don't rate my DNFs. So yeah, I don't have a rating for you. But it was a DNF, and I'm going to be unhauling this because I don't really have a desire to try to tackle it again. So, first time ever, DNF for a 5-star prediction, but there it is. And then my last 5-star prediction for the reading challenge was to read a 2021 award winner. And this book won the Goodreads Choice Award for Best Sci-Fi. And I read Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And this one deals with a scientist named Ryland. Was it Ryland Grace? Oh my gosh, yeah, Ryland Grace, who wakes up one day and he's on a ship. And he cannot remember why he's there. His crewmates, he has 2 other crewmates, they are dead. And he cannot remember who he is and why he's on the ship. But he does know that he was definitely on a very, very important mission. And so he's trying to figure that out. And that's the book. That's really all I can say. Because this book, was such a wild ride. Okay. There's something that happens in this book I can't remember exactly when. But there's an element of the plot that happens that for some reason I just did not see coming. You find out pretty quickly what the mission is, and like but you slowly find out how he got to be on the mission, but through flashbacks. But the actual mission, you find out pretty quick what it is and why he's there. But then there's this whole other element of the plot that's introduced that I did not see coming, and I don't know why. I feel like I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. That I absolutely loved. And I can't tell you what it is because it would be so spoilery. So I can't tell you what it is except that I absolutely loved it so much. And I can't believe that I loved a sci-fi book so much because, again, like The Martian, there is a lot of science stuff in here where he starts talking about, you know, stuff that sometimes makes me zone out brain-wise, but the actual just the story, the ride that you go on, I was so into it. I was so into it. And our main character, Ryland, he is a lot like, what was his name, Mark from The Martian, where, you know, he runs into a problem and he's like, okay, how do we fix this? You know, and he's like thinking quick on his feet and he's just trying to figure it out. And I just loved that. I loved just the same way that I loved the character in The Martian. I loved that he was just so like, he never gave up. And he kind of had that same sort of humor that the main character from The Martian had, which I also really enjoyed. So yeah, basically from the first chapter, I was just hooked on this book and it never let go. I just loved it. I really did. I loved the whole thing. It was great. And I gave this 5 stars. All the stars, 5 stars. I loved this. It was so entertaining. It was such a great adventure. Like I said, even though it had the science stuff, it wasn't like, it didn't bog you down. It was just awesome. Awesome. And so if you have read Project Hail Mary though, we need to chat because like I can't say what one of the main things that I loved so much about this because like I said, it's a spoiler. So if you have read Project Hail Mary, feel free to send me a message so we can chat about the thing that I loved. But yes, I loved this. If you loved The Martian, you're gonna love this. I really think you will. Because even though it's a totally different story, but it is similar in, like I said, in tone and all of that. And man, Andy Weir just knows how to like keep the action coming and just keep you engaged the whole time. So yes, I loved this. I loved this and you should definitely check it out. All right guys, so yeah, that was an interesting round of 5-star predictions for sure. Let me know down below if you've read any of these and what you thought of them, especially Project Hail Mary. I would love to chat with some of you about that. And yeah, I think it was a pretty good round. I mean, the DNF, I did not anticipate that ever happening, but there you go, it happens. Sometimes books surprise you. All right, so that's all I have, guys. I hope you're having a wonderful week. And I will hopefully be back pretty soon. I'll do another 5-star prediction round. So yeah, that's it. I hope you guys are having a great week. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you later.